Presenting Amanda Tapping. Have you been enjoying yourself?
I'm afraid nobody will be here.
Have you been enjoying yourself at the con so far?
No.
No. Terrible experience.
No, it's been totally awesome.
This is one of the best conventions I've ever worked or been to, so. And I'm
Well,
hoping
everyone's been very lovely, so thank you for that.
I have a couple of quick questions.
Uh-oh. Yes.
First off, your directorial debut on television was the 2004 Stargate SG-1 episode, Resurrection. Did you face any challenges moving from being in front of the camera to running the show? And were your castmates helpful, or did they just put you through the works?
No, you know what? I was nervous about whether or not they would make fun or be difficult. Not, to be mean, but that they would be difficult just to be funny. And no, they were totally awesome. And Michael wrote the episode, so the two of us spent a lot of time going through what we thought were the important beats. And because it was Stargate and I had been on the show for so long, the crew was awesome. I didn't face the same challenges that I actually face now as a director. Interestingly, because it was my show and I knew everyone so well. For me now, going on to shows like Primeval or Arctic Air or Continuum, I have to work a little bit harder off the hop to prove that I know what I'm doing. Whereas with Stargate, everyone was just so supportive and family, right?
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great, because I've heard horror stories from other actors who've transitioned to directing on their own shows, and some casts are rather brutal.
No, my boys were awesome.
In those rare moments when you're able to just kick back, relax, zone out, what's in your DVD player or Blu-ray player, or do you read, or what do you do? Her mic is dead.
I love to read, and my daughter, who's just turned 8, loves to read too. So we spend a lot of time cuddling up reading together. What's in my DVD are like kids' movies, but I just got her into Narnia. Yeah, for years, she's like, I don't want to, because it had, the lion on the front of the first one, and she was too scared. And now it's like her favorite thing, of the Chronicles of Narnia. So that's pretty cool.
That's great. You started out working on stage, and you learned your craft there. And it was stated that you were originally not too keen on the idea of working in television.
It's so true.
Where did you originally want to see your career go before you started doing television?
I wanted to work on Broadway, and I wanted to move back to England and work in, in the theater district in London. Which I still want to do. But I thought if I did anything filmic, it would be, really, really cool art films. I was like 20-something kid getting out of university theater school. And I just had very lofty ideals. And I remember we had a guest professor come into school in our final year, and he turned to me and said, "Oh, you're going to be on TV." And I went, "No." I was so offended that he said that. And he said, "No, seriously, I think that's where you're going to end up." And I was like, no, I'm only going to do theater. And then I did. I was doing theater, and I had a comedy troupe, and then I got an agent. So I was like, everyone's getting an agent, so I better get an agent. And I got my first audition for, I've told this story before, for Tim Hortons Donuts, which is a coffee shop in Canada, a chain. And that was my very first audition for anything on film or television, and I got it, and I sold oat bran muffins in a 30-second commercial. And I got my first paycheck, and I went, what? I can pay my rent. So I was hooked.
I wish that could happen to me.
No, it was a nice premiere. What I loved about my career trajectory, which has not been meteoric, it has been very, satellite going around the earth. It's just been, I think I've earned every next step. You know, I did a lot of commercials and I got my first guest star on television, and, you know, by doing a couple of lines or being the reporter at a scene of, you know, so it was like every step I really like clawed my way. And then, so when I finally got Stargate, I felt like, I'm ready for this. Well, I didn't think I'd get it, but I thought I'm ready for it.
Well, I'm sure our audience has plenty of questions for you. We've already got some lined up over here. So let's go ahead and start with you.
Hi.
Okay, that microphone's not working. Testing?
I can talk really loud.
Oh, there we go. Wow, here's whoever.
So I was wondering if you could talk about the sanctuary for kids.
Thank you for asking. You're awesome. We set this up, I have to be honest with you. I asked in the autograph line, are you coming to the panel? And she said, yes. And I said, please ask me questions. She said, what would you like me to ask? And I said, ask about Sanctuary for Kids. You did. You're a rock star. Yeah, I was like, we're totally setting up the panel. But it's going very well. Thank you very much. I'm super proud of the initiatives that have been done by the fans for Sanctuary for Kids. We never envisioned since we started that we've raised over $500,000 since 2009, 10? We started 10. It's been a phenomenal initiative. And what I love, yesterday I got an envelope from a woman who, they set up a swear jar in their house. And all the money has gone to Sanctuary for Kids. It's like $150. I was like, who was the biggest culprit? And she said, me. But I thought, holy cremoli, like, that's one little thing. We're in a house of a family. They said, okay, anytime anyone swears, it goes in the jar and the money goes here. So cool. People who have lost weight, people who have stopped drinking, people who have started to run marathons, people who have jumped out of planes, people who have seen how many somersaults they can do down a hill. I mean, that it's limitless what people have done for us, so I'm super proud. And our charities are thriving. Our kids in Nepal, we have 5 children going to college this year. Nepal Orphans Home, we have a child going to college at Next Generation Nepal, which we would never have seen possible 5 years ago. The women that we're rescuing out of India are starting their own little businesses. The kids in Haiti are doing great, and the kids in the downtown east side, there's a massive initiative. Downtown east side, Vancouver, is a very impoverished neighborhood, and the kids there that we're helping are just, like, they're getting jobs, they're going back to school, they're getting into housing, they're raising their babies, and they're becoming responsible and productive and happy members of society, as opposed to where they started. So it's great. I'm so, so proud of them. I'm so proud of how much you guys have embraced it. So thank you.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to say thank you from all the women out there for giving us such strong, beautiful women to look up to finally in the science fiction community. You are one of my personal heroes for being such a strong woman in such a male-dominated genre. And I would like to know, who is your personal hero and why?
Well, I have a few, but I would say the person that springs to mind is my grandmother, who passed away at she was 103 and a half. I was very proud of the half. She was an incredible firecracker of a woman. She was born in 1901 in England, and so in her lifetime, she saw the entire world change. She saw the Industrial Revolution happen. She lived through 2 world wars. She raised 3 daughters. She immigrated to Canada when she was in her 60s. She just, she was phenomenal and would not take any guff from anyone. I mean, she was like 4 foot nothing. And talk like this, and, you know, anyone, you wouldn't try it on with her. She was the strongest woman I've ever met. And I think on the flip side of that is my husband's grandmother, who was like this angel who walked the earth. She was this sweet, soft, kind, beautiful woman who just, she was a babushka, she's Hungarian, and she was, 5 feet tall and 5 feet wide, and just, she made cabbage rolls, and she was, but she was so sweet. So I look at those two women who grew up at a time when women didn't have the same options that we have now, and they carved very different paths for themselves, but ended up inspiring so many people. And our daughter, her middle name is B, which is after my grandmother and Helen's grandmother, Billy and Bergie. So she's like, I want her to have the best of these two women, and I hope that I embody that. Another one of my personal heroes is one of my dearest friends who passed away 3 years ago, Cynthia Simone, and she passed away from cancer, and she suffered with this disease for 7 years, and I never saw her lose her grace in all the things that she went through, and all of the procedures, and all of the pain and fear. She never, ever was anything less than graceful to everyone that she met. And so, those are the type of people that inspire me.
Sorry, I'm really nervous because I've been meaning to meet you ever since I met Helen Magnus. But I just wanted to say how amazing it is to see Helen Magnus, your character, as that caring and comforting person, the person who's willing to go off the books to save somebody. But then to see that switch in Supernatural, your character as the angel woman who manipulates Cass into betraying Dean and Sam, how to the book your characters. It was so shocking for me. I just wanted to know how did you adjust to that?
Well, what was interesting with Supernatural was I got asked to do 3 episodes initially. I had no idea what the character was about, and of course you sign a massive non-disclosure, and you get your script. And so my first episode, I was in like one scene, and I was like, who is this woman? I think she's an angel, but is she? Wow. And I never knew, until I would get the script, what my character was going to be doing. No one talked to me about whether she was good or bad, and I remember asking once, and they were like, wait and see. So every script I would get, and then I did my contractual 3 for them, and they kept inviting me back, and every script I would go, oh, they're going to kill me. Oh, they're going to kill me. Oh, they're going to kill me. But I never knew who she was. I was never sure until the end. And so I remember doing the scene where I get Misha to kill Dean over and over again, and they pan up and there's like thousands of Deans dead. And Jensen turned to me and he said, oh, the fans are so gonna hate you. Yeah, your fans are pretty intense. And they're like, yeah, they're gonna hate you. It was the first time I'd ever experienced that side. It was like, I'm playing someone truly awful. Oh my gosh. But what I loved about it was I never knew, so I could just play the pure directive in the script. There was no ulterior motive, there was no agenda, because I didn't know what it was. So it was pretty cool. And I liked being mean. I liked that she flipped around at the end, but I kind of dug being. It was fun. Small bursts.
So, working on Supernatural, the guys are known to be kind of mischievous. Did they pull any pranks on you?
You know what they didn't? Misha has this thing where he's just so sardonic, and he tries to make you laugh when he's not on camera and you are. And it's really subtle, but he just pulls faces or whatever. Or the boys always try to make each other laugh. But everyone was pretty nice with me, because I was mean. So no, I never had any pranks pulled. Just Misha being goofy and us getting the giggles. And he was the person I worked with the most, and Mark Shepard, of course. And the two of us would just look at each other and laugh and walk away. We know each other, so it was like, oh, geez, here we go. But yeah, I guess my short tenure there wasn't enough to get pranked. We'll see if I died for real or not, and whether I get to go back. Just putting it out there. I don't know if you guys have any influence on that thing called the intraweb, but...
Hi. My question is also about the supernatural. I just wanted to say thank you for coming to Phoenix. And my question is, in the end, when Naomi told Castiel that she would let him do anything to save heaven, do you think that she was telling him the truth? Or do you think she was only telling him in the hopes that she would be able to actually save heaven?
Oh, I think she was telling him the truth. That's my opinion. I think that she was being honest with him. I think that it was the only time that she was truly honest with him. Was at the very end. That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, some people don't watch Supernatural.
I love Supernatural.
Everyone thinks that she has an agenda right up to the end. I don't know. I read it at face value and went, she really means this. She really means just whatever it takes. And then, yeah, I thought she was being honest. My opinion is the person who plays her, but you guys watch it, so maybe not. Yeah. I'd like to think she redeemed herself ever so slightly.
Okay, big Stargate fan, and I've watched the blooper reel, so I'm curious, who's the biggest prankster on the set, and what was the most memorable prank that they pulled?
Christopher Judge. Because there's a physicality to Christopher that is hard to ignore. And he, he duct taped people to chairs. Me being one of them. And then he sent the crew to lunch, lunch, and everyone's like, stuck to the chair. But he did that with all of us at one point or another. Rick just makes you laugh. He'll just do stuff off camera to make you laugh. But Christopher is like the physical prankster. And the way that Christopher, and forgive me for some of you have heard this story before, but the way Christopher got his comeuppance is he has terrible gas. I mean, the man can clear a room. Often did. And it used to make crew members physically gag. And so at one point he was in a full NASA spacesuit. And he, just the most, it was fantastic for all of us, because we all just sit there and went. And you just saw, you heard the rumble, and then you saw it just. And he was sealed into his spacesuit with his own sling, and it was fantastic. And we all just sit there and went, that's karma, baby. And then to that end, there was another time where he was strapped down to a bed in the operating room and did the same thing. And we all just walked off set and left him there. As you do. So, but Christopher was the most physical of all of the cast in terms of pranking. Rick was just sarcastic. And Michael and I were probably the most gentle. Ish.
Go ahead.
Makes it easier. First, as a combat vet, it was nice to see shows like Stargate and even in certain aspects, especially toward the end, Sanctuary, where there are subtext with a lot of the political decisions that interfere with, sometimes doing the right thing means not doing the right thing.
Right.
And you see that a lot, especially modern day military. And so I really appreciate seeing shows like that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for serving. We all owe you a huge debt.
My question is especially when seeing Samantha Carter and Helen Magnus, what's your natural accent?
This. Well, I'm talking right now. I guess Canadian. I don't know. When I started Stargate, I used to get sent to ADR looping, where they would make me redo my lines because they sounded either too British or too Canadian. I would say process instead of process, and I would get phonetic spellings on how to pronounce things American. I was like, and then it was so easy to slip into Magnus because I'm from England originally, and I go back every year, and I grew up in a very British household. So, but my natural accent is this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Like many of us here, I think that Sanctuary ended way too soon.
Here
If
you
you
go.
if you had a 2 hours or maybe half a season, how do you actually see it ending? A proper ending. How good would you do?
What's that?
If you could, yeah, if you could do a proper ending and wrap it up, what do you see happening?
Oh my gosh, I just never wanted to think of Sanctuary ending, so I've never thought of that question. I mean, when we sort of did the reboot at the end of the 4th season where we went to the new Sanctuary, I just saw that as a whole fresh start. So I don't know, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like a whole new beginning. I really wanted to hang out with Tesla more. And and I wanted some proper resolution to Helen and John, and I wanted, yeah, what she said. Wow, I'm stumped. I don't know. You did say you would ask me a good question, and you stumped me. How I would like to see it end is that it wouldn't. There's so many things unresolved. I wanted to know that if Helen had spent all that time back, had relived all those years, would she have found a way to bring Ashley back? And what could that have meant in the 5th season? And all those things would have been so cool to explore. You know what I write really good speeches. I do. I'm asked to speak a lot, and I give keynote speeches at luncheons and stuff, and I'm really good at I give great eulogies. And I do. I know it's sad to say, but I really do. And I give good speeches, but I've never thought of writing a book. Okay.
There's so much emphasis too on when ending a series.
Yeah.
That when a show comes to the last season, whether they're getting canceled or they're coming to they want to come to a natural conclusion of wrapping everything up. I would think that it would be more exciting to leave a taste of something just to keep the...
Absolutely. What's the potential beyond this? Yes. You don't want to blow up the sun. You want to... which I've done, so...
Of course, I keep thinking back to the last episode of Star Trek 2, the Turnabout Intruder, and that was a really horrible note to end any show. So, okay, go ahead.
All right. What was your favorite blooper that you were actually there for?
My favorite?
Blooper.
Wow. Well, in Stargate, honestly, and it sounds very self-serving, but getting Rick in the iceberg, with the MacGyver line was priceless. Because he so totally didn't expect it. And Martin Wood directed that episode. I feel like I'm neglecting you guys over here. Hi. Martin Wood directed, and we were actually shooting in a stage that had been refrigerated, so it was like -2 degrees. And he said, if the crew's cold, and if you have a chance to have any fun, go for it. And I was like, season 1. Okay. And I thought, I don't know what to do. But then this moment, I just had this epiphany moment when Rick was clawing his way up, and his leg is hurt, and he's getting up toward where the dial home device is embedded in the ice, and I'm watching him, and I got the giggles in my head. And then out came what came out. And I just remember the first thing I said was, you can't dig us out. It used to be, you got a belt buckle, shoelace, and a piece of gum, built as a nuclear reactor. And my line, I can't even remember what my real line was supposed to be, but I turned to him and I said, you can't dig us out. And he went, gave me this look, and then I kept going, and then I got bolder, and it was really good. And then I ended on McUseless, and I was like, I might have gone too far. Season 1, they could kill me in this episode. Sorry, Carter never made it back from the ice cave. But he's ready to priceless because he just, I finished, I used to be MacGyver, McGadget, now you're Mr. McUseless. And he went, and he didn't smile, he just sort of, and that was my, oh crap moment. And I'm looking in his eyes and I'm sort of like smiling and he's like, and then he turned away and then he started to laugh. I was like, so I went up to him in the lunch line afterwards, as you do, and I was like, hey, Rick, so we're good, right? He's like, yeah, we're good. And he's like, I'll get you though. But yeah, that moment of, I am so funny. Oh, I'm so fired. My favorite.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank you for being here, Amanda. Again,
Thank you.
Tons of fans here at Phoenix Comicon. I love you. I think you're great. One quick question. Over the development of Stargate, what was it like, first of all, going through the wormhole and your favorite episode?
Going through the wormhole was painful at first and it caused nausea. But once I became accustomed to it, it was actually quite pleasant. You don't even really notice yourself dematerializing. But at first it made me quite sick. I don't know what the long-term effects are. I've developed some interesting superpowers, and yet my eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. I'm not sure whether that's because of gate travel, so I'm not sure who to blame for that, but it's good now. I have to say though, the interesting thing about, and I forgot the second part of your question already. Oh, favorite episode, sorry. I really loved Heroes 1 and 2 just because of the broadness of the story and how emotional it was for all of us. And maybe it's the memory of filming it where we were all so tight and so, but I don't know that I loved Grace because it was a different Carter. I actually look back and I loved the episodes with Pete because he was so cute. And he was such a nice guy, but I don't know. Any episode where Richard Dean Anderson happened to kiss me was pretty good too. Seriously, the man. But I have to say about gate travel, the way that we used to shoot Stargate and how long it took to set up the vis effect of the gate travel, like the green screens and the Mylars to make the ripple effect. And we would shoot on 35mm film, and so it was like a 45-minute setup every time we went through the gate. And by the time we finished the series, we just walked through. And everything was laid in after the fact. It was now digital. It was so easy. So not dissimilar to, getting nauseous at first and then actually quite enjoying the experience was similar to our vis effect growth, of course. Yeah, does that make sense? Suddenly I was like, I don't know what I'm saying.
Technology has made it easier. Go ahead.
Okay, I've got to ask, how did it feel to blow up a sun?
How did I blow up a sun?
How did it feel blowing up a sun?
Very powerful. Very powerful and a little scary. Because there's that moment where you go, ooh, I wonder if I've destroyed anybody in doing so. I love the lines that they gave Carter. You blow up one sun and people expect you to walk on water, stuff like that. I just loved the fact that she was so smart and was actually capable of blowing up a sun. So how many people can say that? Just saying.
First off, I have to thank you on behalf of a friend. He loved your character, and Samantha Carter drove him to become an officer in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
In astrophysics, and he's about a semester away from doing exactly that.
Holy moly, that is so cool.
So I have to ask you, with all the techno battle that Samantha Carter did you ever decide to do any research so that I'm going to know what I'm talking about?
Oh my gosh, that's, yes. I did tons of research. I I would take those massive technobabble speeches and I would break them down into layman's terms so that I could explain it to anybody. And I would know exactly what I was talking about. And then when I said the technobabble, I fully understood what it was that I was saying, even though nobody else did. I did. And I took it really seriously. And I've told this story before, so forgive me if you've heard it, but I would read the scripts, and there was one time I was in my trailer and I was going through the script and and there was an equation in there. And it was, if we do this, then hundreds of thousands of people could die. And I looked at it and I said, that doesn't seem quite right. Started writing out and I went, okay, X over R equals, and the planet just went, and what did he say, divided by pi? Anyway, I went in through this immense mathematical equation and realized that the writers were wrong. And I was so proud of myself. I was so stoked that I ran up to Brad Wright's office and I went, Brad, I got this line here. It doesn't quite make sense. And he went, oh, okay. And I said, you see, if, and I started to explain this equation to him that I had come up with in my own head. And so R is the ratio of the turning of the planet, this is the gravitational pull, and these are the population pockets, and this means this, and blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me and he said, so, just change the line. And I was like, okay. And I walked out of his office so deflated because I'd done it, and they're like, I know what I'm doing, I could practically be an astrophysicist. And so I was still so proud. I went to my friend Jack, who did our craft service and our first aid, and he came and sat in my trailer, and I said, Jack, let me explain this to you. This is pretty cool. And I go through the whole mathematical equation. I'm super stoked. So I, changed the line because, and he sat there and he went, blink. I'm pretty. And I was like, okay. It was great. I took it very, perhaps more seriously than I should, but I took it very seriously. I didn't know what I was talking about. Could I blow up a sun now? No. But that's just because of the long-term effects of gate travel.
My question is, with being a producer, a director, and an actress, do you ever find it hard balancing that with being a mother?
I've been incredibly lucky in that I have an amazing husband, and we've been together for over 20 years, and he gets it. Yeah, he's really cool. I've always said that if I ever felt like my daughter was compromised in any way, or that it seemed like I wasn't doing my job, then I would just quit work and be with her, because I chose to have a child and I want to raise that child. And I was so lucky that I could take Olivia to set with me for the first 18 months of her life. We spent 24/7 together. She came to Stargate every day, and I'd fire my P90 and then go into my trailer and breastfeed. It was a good balance. But it's just a matter of making sure that the time that you do have is really focused and engaged. And I endeavor every night to be home for bedtime, and that's a big ritual for Olivia and I. And we read our story and we snuggle up and we do this little dream train. And it's just, you just have to make sure that the moments that you're there are focused and concentrated, and that you're present. So work is work and home is home, and you try not to cross-pollinize them too much. So I have been very lucky in that I have balance, but I also have a great partner. Hi.
So, my question is, because I know you direct a lot, what would you want to direct if you could direct anything on TV? Like at all?
Ooh. Anything? Wow. Yeah. I'd love to do something like, I'd love to direct Game of Thrones. I'd love to have that kind of huge play on. And I think eventually I will put myself out there. I mean, I need a lot more experience, but I just finished directing an episode of Continuum. And yeah, it is an awesome show. And I'm even a bigger fan now that I worked on it. It's just, the people are incredible. But I just, again, with my directing career, it's sort of, it's been a slow, you know, I've had to really work at it and try really hard to get jobs. And Primeval was a huge help, getting 3 episodes of that, and this show called Arctic Air, and now Continuum. So I'm hoping that, you know, I get trusted with bigger and bigger things, but something like Game of Thrones would be awesome. Yeah, I know, right? Momoa.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne.
Hi.
I just wanted to first off thank you for being such an amazing and fierce woman on television and in real life. And I want to know, what were the biggest differences between acting with the cast on SG-1 and acting with the cast on Stargate Atlantis?
Wow. The cast of SG-1, we became family instantly. You know, we were brothers and sisters, and it happened very quickly. And we've been friends ever since, and we grew up together in a lot of ways, and so there's that history. So to go to Atlantis was, I mean, I knew David, I knew Jewel, and I knew the whole cast, I knew Joe, I knew everyone, but I always felt like when I went to Atlantis that I was in somebody else's house. You know, I was like staying with my aunt and uncle instead of at my own, you know, and I wasn't sleeping in my own bed, and, you know what I mean? It just, I had that sort of feeling of I'm visiting. And they're phenomenal. The cast was very welcoming and they were great, but it just wasn't home in a lot of ways, if that makes sense. But, and plus the cast of SG-1, we had such a shorthand with each other after all those years together, and we just, sometimes we didn't even have to say anything, it would just be a look and we knew exactly what the other person was thinking. And Atlantis had their own groove going, and I sort of came into it, so it took me a while to get into the groove with them. And not because they're not fantastic people, but just because they'd already established their rhythms. Do you know what I mean? Hello.
Hello,
My name is Samira, and I wanted to know what it was like working with Till.
Well, he's pretty cool. He's a big, imposing, physically massive wall of humanity, and one of the gentlest, sweetest, like, could cry at the drop of a hat, talk about things, and Chris would cry, and he meant it, and when he laughed, like, 3 blocks away, you could hear him laughing. He lives very fully, this man, and, you know, no matter what he's feeling, it's pure, and it's raw, and it's huge, and yet he's such a teddy bear. He gives awesome hugs, too. Like, there are times when you just sort of seek him out for a hug. Chris. Yeah, he's pretty cool. If you like that sort of thing. Big, cool, and sweet. Hi.
Love you. Okay.
Thanks.
I am Big Gabateer. I was at 86 last year. There's several in the audience. There's a couple listening on the live feed. I was just wondering, at 86 you gave us a little teaser that said that not to close the book completely on Sanctuary.
I'm still saying don't close the door completely on Sanctuary.
Okay, that was my question. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I know Sanctuary is a very complicated beast because we are privately financed, and our IP is owned by a company that kind of bought us out in order to make the show. And so every year we had to convince these private financiers to pay a lot of money to continue making a television show, and it's not their primary business. So we're trying to pursue other avenues with them, and just fingers crossed that they come around to it. Even if they just, you know, loan us the IP and they don't have to put any money in.
Well, tell them to ask the fans, because I'm sure we'll all be
yeah.
very into it.
Cool.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
We've been watching you for years, and just to say, you still look amazing.
Wow, thank you. Wow, thank you.
I just have one big question for you. Let's say Sanctuary is dead. Naomi is dead. What's next for you? No.
that may be a couple of years away from fruition. And I'm still acting. I mean, I've got a movie coming up that I'm going to start shooting when I get home, and more directing coming up. I'm doing more episodes of Arctic Air, and hopefully if Continuum comes back, they'll ask me back to do more of them. I actually threw my hat in the ring to direct Supernatural, so that would be fun. I don't know, I mean, I just, you know, I put in my resume in a couple of episodes and went, I haven't heard from them, so who knows. But I don't, you know, it's been, I have to be honest with you, I went through a crisis of confidence when Sanctuary finished for a lot of different reasons. It was like the first time I had stopped being in perpetual motion for 15 years. And it was the first time I wasn't going to be on a TV series in September. It was the first time I wasn't going to go to the upfronts in New York. It was the first time I wasn't going to go to Comic-Con in July. And I was freaked out because I had been doing it for 15 years. And I sort of said to myself, well, who is Amanda Tapping if she's not that girl that's on that TV show? You know, it was a real, who am I? How do I establish this? What's this new phase for me? And I'm still navigating those waters. And it's actually been really phenomenal because I haven't stopped working, but it's very mixed. I'm always doing different things. So it's exciting, but it's a little scary too. So when people say, what's next? I'm like, I don't know. And hopefully something really cool. I've been very fortunate. But I do know that I have a couple of gigs coming up. And we'll see. Just looking for another sci-fi show that begins with the letter S, basically.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is another question about Supernatural and Naomi, who's actually one of my favorite characters. Yes. And I'd love to see her come back and be Queen of Heaven.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I'd love for that.
Or I'm very pleased to be the barista at the Heaven Coffee Shop. That'd be cool too.
But based on the last episode, it sounds like she's been kind of playing the heavenly corrector role for a while and even working with the archangels. So I was wondering if you knew or if the writers ever told you what rank she actually is in heaven or how high up in the hierarchy she is.
They never told me anything. Honest to God, it was kind of brilliant, the way that Supernatural works. It's brilliant, because you come on and you have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, I remember asking at one point, I asked Robert Singer, I was like, so, what up? What is she? And he's like, just wait and see. I'm like, well, how do I don't know what the path for this character is, so I don't know, you know, where I'm trying to find a focus on how to play her, and he's like, just play her. Okay. Which was very liberating as an actor who had been on long-running television series to sort of go, this is where I want to see the character end at the end of this season. I hadn't got a clue. And the writers don't tell you anything. Literally, when you get the script, it's like, oh, what does that mean there's a drill in the back of her head? What's that? Oh. Yeah. So I have no idea what her rank is, or could be. Because they don't know either, probably.
We have another nice little young lady here.
Hi, sweetheart.
Personally, my favorite role of yours was in SG-1, and I was wondering, that aside, what you want to be remembered for in the future.
Sanctuary for Kids. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dan.
Hi.
First, I want to say thanks for a decade of really positive programming, and like the lady said before, that you're a good female strong lead. I want to say that you're a good lead for anybody. When I talked to the autograph booth earlier today, being a law enforcement veteran and a first responder, sometimes it makes a negative commentary in the news and stuff like that. The way you represented that, which I appreciate it, just like military and first responders, because we're the guys we throw in the gear. You know, we go through the wormhole every day. You never know if you're coming home. Thank you for representing that. That being said, how much did you enjoy working with P90s and tactics, defensive tactics, and stuff like that?
I gotta be honest with you, I am not pro guns, and we had our very first firing range lesson with MP5s at the time, is what we were using for the first season, and the guys were all like afterwards, yeah, smoking cigars, and I went off into the woods and threw up, but then I developed a real zen with the weapon. And the more I got to know people in the military, and the more advisors came on board, and then the more, we went on a USO tour shortly after 9/11, and I talked to people in the military, and I just realized I found a real simpatico with it. And so when I left the Stargate franchise and went to Sanctuary, and I was walking down the set in my pencil skirt and stilettos, I was like, if I had a P90 right now, I would feel really good. I missed it. We had a great armorer, and so we had sequences where we would be running and firing and reloading and practice that. And there was a great sense of accomplishment to getting all of that right. Not only because we were representing the military, and it wasn't like we were making up a branch of the military, we were representing the Air Force, and it was there was a lot of protocol to follow. And also representing the men and women that we had met, in bases around the world. It was like, it was this great sense of accomplishment, but a great sense of responsibility. I loved it. Thank you. You made it.
Yes, I did. 3 quick things and one question. Number 1, Kickstarter for Sanctuary. Number 2, Samantha Carter was my role model all through high school. That was who I wanted to be, hands down. So thank you for that. And number 3, I love Sanctuary enough that I'm naming all of my pets after characters from the show. And Tessa's my favorite cat. So, question 2-parter. Out of all of the non-Star Wars, Stargate, Sanctuary aside, what was your favorite show to work on, and what was the overall most fun show to work on?
Ooh. I did a movie recently, well, not recently, but a year ago, called Random Acts of Romance. And it was very liberating because it was during that time that I found out that Sanctuary was not being brought back. And I was devastated. But I was filming this crazy comedy where I played a very loopy woman who was losing her own mind. And for me to be able to just sort of embrace that and not be afraid. And there's one scene, one particular scene that if you've ever seen the movie, you'll know what scene I'm talking about. But oh, it's not here? Okay, well, wait for it. There's one scene where I was like, for me it was so liberating. I just let myself go. I didn't care what people thought, and I had a blast. So it was more the experience than the set. The set was awesome. The cast was amazing. And the director was a woman, Katrin Bowen, who ironically was my stand-in on Stargate in the first season and sometimes photoed with me. So to flash forward 16 years later and she's directing me in a movie, it was like the sisterhood. Supernatural is a great, great, great atmosphere. Very welcoming, very easy to walk onto that set, and I'm grateful for that. Because it's scary when you get on your own show and then you go to somebody else's and think, and they couldn't have been nicer. So I would say in my limited experience since finishing, Supernatural was such an embracing set. You know what, honestly, I haven't had a bad experience. I really haven't. I have fun wherever I go. And I think I'm very lucky that I've been put in the path of really great people and people who have the same sense of humor and the same joy about what they do and the same passion without the angst that I try to live by. So I've been really, it's hard to say my favorite because I've been really, really lucky.
Most fun, though.
Most fun?
Yes, overall.
Not including SG-1 and Sanctuary?
Not including them.
It's pretty hard. Random Acts of Romance. I think. Space Milkshake! Oh my god, I forgot I did that movie! Oh wow, yeah, Space Milkshake. That was awesome! We laughed our heads off because it was so goofy. And Billy Boyd is like one of the funniest human beings walking the planet. And Robin Dunn, of course, who's like, I love him. And Kristen Kristen Krug, who could not have been sweeter and has a wicked, wicked sense of humor. And I laughed so hard. I mean, we were in Regina, which is in the middle of Canada in November. It's the prairies, so it's windy and cold, and I've never felt so warm. It was so much fun. And again, I say Billy Boyd because he just, every single day, he never broke. No matter what you said or what you were doing on set, he always kept a straight face, but he'd like sing you. And I'm terrible, I cry and laugh at the drop of a hat. So I forgot about that. I got this movie called Spice Milkshake and I had fun. We're actually thinking of doing a direct marketing with it. Robin's more involved with that aspect of it than I am, but just like directly putting it onto iTunes or sites like that, and selling it directly, as opposed to getting through all, we're working on it. We're working on it.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, as co-host of Gatecast, I spent the past 4 years and 8.5 seasons watching your character, Samantha Carter, develop, and we've come up with a theory that we call the romantic curse of Samantha Carter. Her to Pete.
I don't know what you speak of.
Anyone who fell for Sam Carter seemed to die. So did you actually petition for someone who didn't? Or
Yes.
was that the producers?
I went to the producers and said, this is ridiculous. Could I please have a boyfriend who actually lives? Who I am not directly involved in killing, or who by some, sad mistake of mine dies. Could we please just have a guy who doesn't? Please? Because I was getting embarrassed. And so along came Pete. And he didn't die, I ripped his heart out of his chest, threw it against a tree, but he didn't die, so. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Being that the British have a very quirky sense of humor, do you find that you often shoot yourself in the foot by upsetting cast members or people on the set by your unusual sense of humor? My parents are British, so I have a tendency to really upset people.
Do you really?
Laughing at things that maybe aren't so funny. So.
Sometimes I say things that I think are hilarious, and people go, what? What do you mean by that? But for the most part, people get my sense of humor. But I work with people, like Richard Dean Anderson, Chris Judge, and Michael Shanks, and then, with Robin Dunn and Ryron and Chris Heyerdahl. It's like, they get it. I've never, every once in a while there's a head scratching on them. For the most part. For the most part, they get it. Or at least they pretend to get it. What did she say?
Hey, Amanda, you have a really cute family. I've been curious, how did you meet your husband?
Wow, personal, eh? He was introduced to me by a friend of mine. And she used to date him in high school, as it happened. And, no, it's all good. It's all cool. We just hung out last weekend together. Everything's good. But she was going up to her boyfriend's cottage, and she said, "Why don't you come up for the weekend? You need to get out of town." And I said, "I got to work late Friday, and I don't have a wheel, so I'll have a great time." She said, "Well, you know what? Alan's working late Friday, and he's going up. So why don't I just ask if he'll give you a ride?" And I was like, "Sweet." So I knew Alan. We'd met. We hung out together. And he picked me up at what they call the Kiss and Ride, which is like part of the subway system in Toronto. And so you there's a little roundabout where you drop off your spouse and they go to the subway. So he picked me up at the Kiss and Ride, and it was a 5-hour drive to his cottage. And it was the first time he and I had ever spent any time alone together. And halfway up, we stopped at a Tim Hortons. So Canadian, our story is so Canadian. I remember washing my hands in the bathroom, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I went, "Oh, I think I just fell in love with this guy." And he said the same thing had happened to him. So, yeah, right? And that was 20-something years ago. 20-something. So we met through a mutual friend, who's still a very, very dear friend of ours. Yeah, my dude. He's a very nice and normal guy.
Okay, go ahead.
First off, I love you and all your different movies, but I heard Chris got like burned by pyrotechnics and it messed up one thing. Did you ever get any that close that you got hurt by any chance on any Stargate? And also, I'm really hoping for a Kickstarter. Are there any like movies for Stargate happening or in the works? Because I really, really want more movies.
Well, there was a point where Brad Wright had written a movie that sort of, from what I understand, brought the three shows together and was like the sort of final gift to the fans of the culmination of these three shows. And it looked at one point like it was going to go, and then MGM had financial troubles again. And so I honestly don't know what happened with it. And I don't know that, I don't know if the ship has sailed, like whether it's too late. It would be really cool, I think, to get together before we have to go through the Stargate using walkers. That would be nice. Your first question, pyrotechnics. Yes. On the set of Stargate, I got blowed up. It was season 1, and we had a shot running through the woods where I think there was 3 of us, and I was the 3rd person. And as soon as so there's this, you run through this path, and as soon as the 3rd person goes, our special effects guys set up a mortar. Not a real one, obviously, but a little explosion that threw up all this dirt and sparks. And so they knew the count. It was one person, 2nd person, 3rd person, boom. Well, what they were not told was that we were also doing it with a Steadicam, which is a guy with a camera strapped to him, running backwards, leading us. And so he saw 1 person, which was the Steadicam guy, 2, 3, and just as I hit the mark. So it was like, he felt terrible. And I just remember that my makeup melted a little bit. And I had to, because I had all these little red spots, like little dots. But it seriously was not bad. It could have been way worse. And I remember the director, Mario Azzopardi, who directed our pilot, came up to me and said, "Why are you so stupid, Amanda? This is your face. Without your face, this is your career, your face. How come you do this?" And I was like I set off the bomb. Are you kidding me? He got really mad at me, and I think it's because he felt guilty and he didn't know how to express that. Like, I don't think he was capable of saying, "I'm sorry, this happened." So instead he was like, "You idiot!" So I remember it more for how this director reacted than to the actually getting blown up. But it was kind of scary, and it was a big lesson. And the special effects guys, God bless them, were so upset. Like, I was going around hugging them, saying, "It's okay, it's gonna be okay." And a couple of times where the shell casings, when we were doing really long firing rounds, especially with the P90s, because the shells ejected straight down. So I remember once doing this scene and the cameras were rolling, and I came out from behind a tree and I was on one knee, and I started firing and the shell casings were hitting my leg. So it was right there. And of course I'm on camera, so I'm like, "Oh!" And afterwards I had all these welts on my leg, and I was like, "Lesson learned. Put the other knee up." Straight out the gun. So, yeah. Trial by fire.
Okay, we got 2 minutes, so we got one more quick. Can you give us a quick question?
The other little one too. Okay, hi.
Hi, I just want to say, first of all, SG1, favorite overall sci-fi, and Samantha Carter was my favorite because she brought a technical side to the adventure, in a way. So, my question is, Atlantis and SG1 were so adventurous and more of the whole action more than the drama, which is what Universe brought into it. So how do you feel compared to having worked on Atlantis and SG1? How do you feel about Universe?
I thought it was, very brave, and I think that what they were trying to do was reinvent the wheel in a way that SG1 was so sort of iconic in its sense of humor, and it had a huge heart, but it also didn't take itself super seriously. And Atlantis kind of had the same vibe, and so I thought the 3rd episode, or the 3rd series in a franchise, franchise, you've got to have to try to shake things up. And I thought they did it really well. I don't think that people embraced it as much as I thought that they would. But I thought it was really brave to actually take this known franchise and kind of turn it on its ear. And I thought Brad Wright is a really brilliant man and a great writer. And I think that he was sort of just as shocked by the ending of Universe as he was like, what? People don't like it? What? But it's, not that they didn't like it. I mean, a lot of people loved it. But yeah, it was just, it was very different. And the way the style they shot it in was totally different, all handheld, kind of shaky. Remember the camera guys who are used to the, Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis who had moved over were like, oh, this show is killing us. But I thought it was really brave to do it that way. Yeah. Thank you.
And I want to thank you.
Got one little one.
Okay, one little one.
How was the Stargate built?
Pardon me?
How was the Stargate built?
How was the Stargate built? That's a great question.
Wow.
Sugar and spice and everything else. It was built by the ancients, right? So I don't know because I wasn't there. But, that's such a sweet question, and I feel like I need to do it more justice than I'm doing it right now. Anyone? Come on, somebody. How was it built?
Phase inducers and I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Orlin, you build it using my microwave oven. But, How the prop was built or how the real Stargate was built? The prop?
The real Stargate.
Oh.
And Stargate SG-1.
Oh, that's classified information, son. That's a whole military procedure to get that information sweetheart. But thank you very much for your question.
It was awesome. And it was awesome having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Every time I hear this song, I think of Supernatural, and I've always wanted to walk onto the set and play this song for Misha.